Pleasant Valley, hello, Pleasant Valley Middle Schoolers. Back with Mr. Ramos again. Today we're going to talk about changing directions. It is rare that in a sport or in a game we just run in one direction and never turn, right? So today we're going to talk about one of the ways that is often utilized to change direction, called an open cut. There's two main ways that I've learned to teach people how to change directions. There's an open cut and a crossover cut. Today we're talking about the open cut. The open cut is the way you utilize, you turn direction when you're turning 180 degrees. So it's what we use not only in sports, oftentimes when the ball, let's say you're playing soccer, you're running towards your goal, the ball gets kicked behind you, you have to turn around. That's a 180 degree turn. Or when you're doing a shuttle run in practice, you run and you turn, you run and you turn, that's a 180 degree turn. Or when we do our pacer test, you're gonna do, it's kind of like a shuttle run to a beat, so it's a 180 degree turn. So, before we actually practice running and turning, I want to teach you guys something called the lateral lunge or a sideways lunge, which is a really good strengthener and a warm-up for open cuts. And a lateral lunge is basically where you're gonna step to the side, absorb with a squat, and then push back to where you were before. So when we do this lateral lunge, I want you guys practicing starting with 2 feet pointing forward, because when we have 2 feet pointing forward, we know that those 2 feet are parallel to each other. And then we're gonna step to an imaginary line on the floor, or an actual line. I put this piece of 2x4 here, or not 2x4, it's like plywood. And you're gonna step to it, and your foot's gonna land parallel to that line, and then you're gonna push off. I really want you guys focusing on the hip going back. So one other way you can try it is touching the ground next to your foot and then pushing off. So when I touch the ground next to my foot, it makes me hinge back and push off. Our weight is still on the tripod of the foot, but the first part of the foot that's gonna hit the ground is the side of the foot. So my side of my foot, the pinky side hits the ground, but then as I squat, I bring some weight to the big toe side of my foot before I push back. So again, we can do it just looking forward, or we can get a little bit deeper by touching the ground next to your foot. That's a lateral lunge. Of course, you would do both sides. You can alternate both sides if you want to. Now, the reason we need to be parallel to the line is because, for 2 reasons. If we are running and we stop like this and then we make the turn, well, that takes more time than turning as you stop and then coming back. So that's one reason we need to be parallel to that line. Second reason, if we start turning but don't fully turn, our weight's going that way, our knee's still pointing that way, and we are more likely to fall in that direction. It's going to take longer to stop this way than it will this way. It's going to be, again, this is faster, parallel is faster and safer. Now, let's talk about inertia. Inertia is the resistance to changing the state of movement of an object. So it is, how hard is it to stop an object or a person from moving, okay? There's 2 things that control the amount of inertia an object has, or a person has. And it is the size of the person and the speed at which they're traveling, okay? So let's practice some open cuts, doing like a little shuttle run. And the first few times I want you to do it slow. So I'm gonna run away from the camera, nice slow jog. I'm gonna open to my left, which means I stop with my right and I come back. Again, I'm gonna run and come back. When I turn to my left, I stomp with my right. Now, if I'm gonna turn to my right, I have to stop with my left. So a nice slow jog and come back. When I turn to my right, I stop with my left. I am using the line of the wall in this case as my comparison to make sure my foot is parallel. Now, to make that way harder and way more useful for sports. We need to increase the speed, right? And practice doing it at a sprint. So we're gonna run as fast as we can, stop, and then come back. To both sides. Of course, I just don't want to make the video too long. Notice that when I was stopping myself, I took a bunch of small choppy steps. Remember when we talked about your weight distribution and your line of gravity? The shorter the steps, the slower you're going. So if you're going really fast with big steps and a lot of lean, and you get a little bit more upright and take shorter steps, it will slow you down. So I'll demonstrate that one more time. As I run fast, I start with some big steps, then make them small, get a bit more upright. That slows my body down. It allows me to make that turn. That is it for today's video. I'll see you guys in class.